Now, what if they don't give you everybody's individual time in terms of the same amount of work? Can you still answer the question? Yeah, well, of course you can. You just can't use the shortcut. Instead, we use an equally brilliant and equally excellent framework that most of you probably already know, which is rate times time equals work. And let's take a look at that framework. The best way to show you how this rate times time equals work framework, works is to use a very simple example. An example that we could actually solve with our excellent shortcut. Instead, we'll use the equally brilliant rate times time equals work method and show you a few very important things along the way. Now, as with all frameworks, the goal is to get the question out of their annoying English and into solid math that we can solve, and that means that all of the words can be interpreted to fit into our framework, and that is very good for us. So we always start with rate times time equals work across the top. That equation is a math fact and our true north in these questions. Okay, so what do we have? Mike can clean the garage in 5 hours. Jen can clean the garage in 3 hours. How long will it take them to clean the garage working together? All right, next we pull out the players in our little drama. Those go on the left side. So we have Mike, Jen, and in this one we have it together. We don't always have it together in these questions, but in this one we do. Then we start converting the English into math and fitting it into our most helpful framework. So the first thing to know is the word the in these questions, and the word a in these questions, by the way, means one. So that means we are cleaning one garage, so our work equals 1. Next, we're told that Mike takes 5 hours to clean the garage and Jen takes 3 hours. It's easy to see where those numbers fit, and we're being asked for the time together, so that's X. Okay, now for a few very important things. The first thing is we do not add time in work rates. The time it takes them to clean this garage together does not equal 8. The big thing in work rates is to always get everyone's rate. That is really what unlocks these questions. So whenever you are lost in a work rate question and groping around for the next step, make sure you have everyone's rate. So if Mike can clean one garage in 5 hours, his rate must be 1/5, and we can get to that in one of two ways. The first is there's an intuitive way. Well, if it takes him 5 hours to clean the garage, he must be cleaning 1/5 of that garage every hour. And there's a more mathy way, which is, well, rate times time equals work. So something times 5 must equal 1. Mike's rate must be 1/5 because 1/5 times 5 equals 1. Similarly, we know that Jen's rate is 1/3. And while we never add time, we do add rates. In fact, we're going to be adding rates all the time. So their rate together is 1/3 plus 1/5. So we know that 1/3 plus 1/5 times X equals 1. Now, is it okay if I clean up the algebra just a little bit and multiply X through the parentheses? Hey, that is our shortcut. Not surprisingly, our excellent shortcut comes from our excellent rate times time equals work framework. I told you that I would tell you where this came from algebraically. So now we know that we can solve for X, and X is going to be 15/8. Now there are a couple other dead useful things that we can pull out of this algebra. If rate times time equals work, and it does, then rate must equal work over time, and time must equal work over rate. And that is very important, because what they're going to do is give you a pile of confusing words, I know, big surprise, and some of those words will fit pretty easily into the framework, but we'll probably still have holes left in our chart. Then we'll use these little equations, time equals work over rate and rate equals work over time, to fill in our gaps. It's kind of like playing demented Sudoku, and it's also kind of fun after you get the hang of it. And as a heads up, all the questions we're going to do from here on out in the lesson and in the practice are all in about the top 10% of difficulty level. They're all hard, but don't be scared. You're going to do great. Remember, you have an excellent framework to help you. And also remember that after you've mastered these, and you totally will, you'll know how to knock down some of the hardest questions you'll see on the test. So let's get started making you great at these.